Hello everyone, how you doing? I'm gonna swap right over to the main monitor because I want to show off the lights for anyone that's new here. But hi, welcome back to all the regulars. I hope you had a great week. Hey Brian, how you doing? Yeah, I just woke up. I'm a little bit exhausted. I got a bit less sleep last night, so this might be a shorter stream, but I'm gonna try and keep the energy high and we'll see how it goes. Hey Deleted, how you doing? My mouse has been, like, acting up really weirdly today. If you see anything like this, that's not because of the game lagging. That is because my mouse hates me. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let me check real quick. I have another mouse, and I'm curious if it has battery. Because, honestly, I'm kind of getting fed up with this bullshit. Let's see. Is it on? It's not. Oh wait, it's powered off. It isn't. A Fumo? I don't know what a Fumo is. Sorry. Okay, it's dead. Damn it. Okay, I will have to make do with this mouse that's doing great. Very great. But yeah. Welcome back, everyone. Last time, we finally got the lighting system brought back into the game. It was working a long time ago, back when OpenGL was the rendering backend, but when I swapped it over to Vulkan, I basically just, like, threw all of the lighting rendering stuff out. Because I was like, I don't want to deal with this right now. I just want to make sure that the game actually like runs properly in the new rendering engine. And so last week was the first week that we actually got the lighting back in like a year-ish, probably. You can see that it's RGB lit. Like the light spread is a lot higher than Minecraft's lighting or comparative voxel games. It spreads to a maximum of 64 blocks in radius. Which it means it can have an influence of over 128 blocks in diameter. And it's also a lot more spherical than Minecraft's lighting, on account of using a different node propagation algorithm I came up with that is more octagonal. You can see that there's kind of 8 sharp points around here instead of Minecraft's usual 4, which personally I think leads the light to feeling a lot more accurate. I mean, like, it's not actually accurate, of course, because it's node-based lighting, but I think it's in general a lot better. Did I actually post the announcement in Ari's Den? Yes, I did, of course I did. Okay, good. Yeah, and then, so, this time, I want to address the fact that this looks really weird. We've got a bright sky, and we've got bright fog, and the entire world is dark. It used to be a thing where, like, we could actually change the skybox and the ambient lighting, and I don't have that implemented right now. It should be a really easy fix, but once, you know, we get into it, we'll find out. And then the other thing is that I want to fix light removal, because as you can see, it kind of doesn't work. It sometimes works, but it's incredibly inconsistent. Like, it kind of happens occasionally if I give myself a smaller light and then place it and then remove it. That almost worked. It's kind of fucked up, as you can see. So we want to try and get that working as well. It propagates iteratively instead of using attenuation. It's still... So, I'm not entirely sure what you're meaning by the difference between those two. I mean, it is iterative, but so is Minecraft's. It's still basically a flood fill algorithm, where it starts here, and then it goes out, and out, and out, and out, and keeps decaying. But the main difference of the algorithm is that it includes a direction bit, so there's an X, Y, and Z direction bit, and then basically as it's propagating, if it encounters, or if it's propagating to a direction that it came from, then it decreases by 2 values, and if it propagated from a direction, or if it's propagating to a direction it didn't come from, it only decreases by 1, which causes the, like, kind of octagonal shape to exist. But yeah, so first we're gonna try and get the actual light we're going to try and get the Skylight working again so we can actually change the passive light values of the environment as well as the Skybox. And then we're going to try to get light removal working, and we'll see what happens from there. So yeah, let's quickly review the code. I had a bunch of... Oh, actually, there's one more thing I want to show. I'm preparing for a new video, and I wanted to make sure that some entity rendering stuff worked that I hadn't tested in a long time. And lo and behold, it didn't. So I fixed it, and now I can do this. Spawn, Zeus, default, rabbit, 500. Their AI is very primitive. They jump at a random interval even if they're in midair, and then they kind of just drift around. But they are all independently animated. They're just running a kind of slow idle animation right now. But they're all independently computed right now. Just because I spawned them at the same time doesn't mean they're like sharing the same animation state. Although they are all having the same timing, which, you know. But yeah, they're all different instance entities. They are being rendered in 2 draw calls, 1 per texture. And I don't know, they're pretty high performance. I can spawn a lot of them. And the main slowdown is actually with the raycasting for like placing and breaking blocks. Like you can see it's totally smooth over here, even if I look at them. But as soon as I enter the chunk they're in, it starts to chug. And that's because my raycasting algorithm, or my raycasting algorithm for detecting where colliders are really sucks. And it's based on just iterating over every entity in any chunk that the ray is in every step, which is really insanely bad. There's definitely like some octree stuff I could do to improve that, but I haven't bothered yet. So yeah, I guess my point being is the rendering is quite fast, and you know, I can actually handle like several thousand rabbits at once at like solid 60 FPS, at least when I'm not streaming. It's just there's some weird stuff with like actual other things. I'd say that's pretty good considering how many thousand rabbits that is. Yeah, there's currently 1,500 here. I tested it with, I think I got 4,500 without streaming before I started going below 60 FPS. And judging by my profiling, even that many rabbits only cost a millisecond to render on the GPU side. So I'm inclined to believe that the slowdown is actually from computing the animation state of each of them. Which, I know they're not very much, like, they're not animating very visibly, but they do have an animation that they're running through right now. And I'm not really computing that very efficiently. I don't think I cache any information about the previous keyframes that were encountered, so that's probably a really good opportunity for optimization. But yeah, I don't know. It was just good to see that they're working still. I'm currently working on a script about indirect rendering, which is why I wanted to look at them. And it's coming together. I just shot-listed the whole thing yesterday, and I have 72 shots to put together, and then I need to record the lines, and then I'll be able to publish it. So I'm hoping that'll happen soon. Hey there, Prosto Kutloyo. I failed at the pronunciation, I'm so sorry. How you doing? Alright, so let's get started here. I'm just going to commit this real quick. Just, you know, get our matured entities going again. We'll give it a bug fix. Okay, so, hey there. Yeah, so we're going to go into the main script file of the game, and we should have some code somewhere to change the time of day that's commented, because it used to exist. Looks like this. Have a headache? Aw, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear it. I'm doing pretty good. I'm a bit exhausted. I didn't sleep super well last night, so I'm a little bit like, but I'm excited. Stream just started, so feeling good. Alright, I'm going to uncomment this. And I'm very curious to see what happens, because this was back with the OpenGL backend. I was dynamically generating different textures, which is kind of cursed, because I think in the Vulkan render, I don't think we discard textures that are temporarily needed yet, which means this might exhaust my system's RAM. We're gonna find out. So let's build the source. Not the worst headache you've ever had, fair enough. I'm currently cooking a voxel engine. This is a voxel engine I've been working on for the past 6 years. I have been mostly just like filling in features that I need to make my own voxel game. Right now we're working on light propagation, and at this very moment I'm working on getting Skylight to be configurable again. So I'm gonna press whatever keybind I have. Where was it? T. Okay. This might crash. It didn't. I mean, that doesn't look very correct, but, you know, it's a start. Oh, yeah, okay. So this is something I noticed last stream and didn't really bring up. But, like, I noticed that the texture precision of all of these textures is really janky when it's at low light levels. And I was looking at it in RenderDoc, and I found out that that's because there's some weird nonlinear gamma stuff that's happening, where the actual, like, luminance being stored into the pixels in the buffers for, like, the actual, like, albedo is super low compared to the rendered output. And I'm assuming it's some sort of, like, sRGB thing, which I haven't addressed yet, but it's really affecting the Skybox here. Like, you can see very obvious banding that isn't actually in the texture because it's just losing precision. I should probably figure out what's going on there. It doesn't show on the stream? Interesting, okay. Well, I guess that's good at least. I will need to fix this at some point. Am I making my own survival game? Yes, I am building a sci-fi game called Zeus, where you basically crash land on an alien planet and end up having to shapeshift into a bunch of different forms to survive the environment and tech up and conquer the planet. Why UV420 scrunches dark values hard? Is that a default? Sorry, I'm just... Oh, that's the encoding. Got it. Yeah, so... It's weird, though. I don't... Like, I can give an example here. If I open RenderDoc, and we actually render a copy of it in here... So I'll look at the environment. You can see how bright it is, right? And then if I open it in RenderDoc now, and we look at one of the color passes, you can see it's like almost entirely black. Like, it's technically there, you can see some highlights, but it's so scrunched towards 0. If I turn off the gamma display of linear data, I guess, then it looks normal, right? Except for the fact that it's, you know, kind of scrunched. But I'm assuming that there's some sort of issue where I'm encoding this buffer in nonlinear RGB stuff. So, yeah, I don't know, I need to figure out what's going on there. What language am I using? I am using C++ for the actual underlying code, raw Vulkan for the graphics API, and then I've embedded V8, which is Chrome's JavaScript runtime, into the project itself, and all game content is written using TypeScript and interpreted using that. Oh, here we go. I see how it is, Trixon. I have to open the frickin' ears timer again. How you doing? Hope you're good. Let me go pull that up. 1 hour. Start. Now I need to get the chroma key thing going. Ears timer. This one. Did that work? First try? I think it did. Okay, great. Yeah, it is a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Wait, if I scroll this window, what happens? Ooh. That's funny. Okay. So... yeah, so it looks like the Skybox texture's working properly. And I'm hoping that if I just spam it, it's not going to end up exhausting all the video memory. I guess I could check. Let's find out. So we're currently using Zeph is using 1300 megabytes of memory, and if I just hold this keybind to repeatedly change the color, it stopped going. Oh, it seg-faulted. Okay, I'm assuming that means there is an issue. But that's an issue we'll figure out after we actually get the Skylight multiplier working first. Because, you know, I'm more interested in seeing this function and then we'll fix the bug, otherwise it's kind of hard to actually debug it. So, we have the texture changing. That's a given. And then we need to make this set Skylight multiplier work properly. What's your world structure? I have cubic chunks. They're 32 blocks cubed. If I go over to like the chunk type def, they contain nodes, which are blocks, liquids, biomes, and light values, and then this is effectively the data value that Minecraft used to have, but it's dynamic. You can choose how many of these values you want with the modding API, and all of them are chars. And then there's also node metadata for stuff like chest contents and things. It's a sparse list of values that can store, so it's a sparse list of block position to structured data, basically. Yummy clean header. I try to keep the headers pretty clean. There are some cases where I've inlined just about everything into the header, which is not always great, but it's mainly where I'm doing metaprogramming. Like the chunk mesher here, its guts are almost entirely in the header. Alright, so I have this set Skylight multiplier. And I know it has to be defined somewhere, because it didn't crash when it was running, right? So I'm assuming, yeah, in the Dimension Atlas interface, we have this instance set Skylight multiplier, which, okay, sets it on the native dimension object. Wait, what was that? Oh, yeah, okay, that's fine. And then, so that sets the Skylight multiplier here, and we've also got a node light multiplier. And then, in theory, we'd want to pull that and give it to the shader, but I suspect we're not doing that anywhere. Let's see. Yep, it's defined, but it is not used. Okay. So I guess the next problem is, let's go to world.vert.glsl. Here's our shader. We currently compute the light here. It is output as the blend color, and it is the skylight times the skylight factor, then the block light times, now we're going to do the block light factor, because apparently I have one of those too, and I didn't realize it. I assume that was for stuff like if you wanted to have kind of like a Warden effect, where the block light got dimmer. I doubt that'll be heavily used, but it's just one more multiplication, so no reason not to do it, really. Okay, so then we need to provide these two as data, which I'm probably going to pass in the state object. I mean, overloading the state object is kind of weird. Does state already have specific stuff in it? Where is it? It's got the projection and the view. Yeah, you know, I think we can override this. We're gonna have the projection and the view, and then we're gonna have a vec for skylight multiplier, and then a vec for blocklight multiplier. We're not actually ever gonna use alpha here, but it's nicer for just like organizing the bit sizes if it's a nice multiple of 16. State, okay, so you might be more familiar with OpenGL, where it has uniforms. We're not really using uniforms in this, like Vulkan doesn't really have uniforms in the traditional way. It has push constants, which is effectively a thing where you can send in, I think it's up to 256 bytes of information into the shader at once, which is really low, but really fast. But in Vulkan, you can actually reference pointers to data. So this is my push constants array. This is the information that we're sending every, basically at any interval we want, but we do it before we start the world rendering. And it encodes a state value, which is this struct here, which has already, or has up till now contained the projection and view parameters. for like the matrices. And now we're including the Skylight multiplier and the Blocklight multiplier. And then it also includes a pointer to a list of models we want to render, a pointer to a list of encoded faces, and a pointer to a list of instances. Encoded faces is basically... That's actually weird. Hold on. Right, okay, I understand, sorry. So, effectively, the models list is a list of the block model definitions. So, like, what does dirt look like? What does stone look like on each of their sides? And then the encoded faces is the list of actual faces we want to render, which references the models. And then instances is a chunk. It's basically a list of per chunk information. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm confirming this for myself right now as well, because it's been a while since I've looked at it. And as I'm looking at it, I actually do think that these values make more sense inside the push constants itself, because this state value is probably used in this shader as well. Yeah, it is. And I'd prefer not to overload it for things that don't really need it. So we're going to keep this state just as a basic projection in view, and then we're going to pass this in with the push constants for the world shader. Are your blocks all cubes? Are there any non-cubical blocks? There are, yes. I will show those in a second. Just let me quickly, before I forget, go over to here. And I'm going to be looking for a push world. Yeah, perfect. We're going to go vec for Skylight multiplier, vec for Blocklight multiplier, and then let's go to wherever this is specified, right here, cool. And we're going to go Skylight multiplier is equal to, let's just go vec for 1, 1, 1, 1, and then Blocklight multiplier is going to be the same, and we're going to quickly make sure that this doesn't explode. So, if this is going to explode, I'm assuming it's because I've done something weird with, like, memory alignment. That's kind of the biggest issue when it comes to sending data between Vulkan and C++ for me, is there's a lot of subtle rules about how the bytes are aligned that's different between GLSL and C++. Don't explode. Alright, so it looks like we're alive. The world is still dark because we haven't swapped it over to using these parameters. So let's actually do that. We're gonna go view... I think I just go Skylight multiplier, yeah, and then Blocklight multiplier. Although, as I see this, I don't like that these don't start with a U, because I've been starting everything else in the push constants with a U because it's effectively a uniform, and it's nice to be able to have that naming be obvious. Alright, let's quickly build the shaders. Exit code 1. Uh-oh. Ah, because it doesn't like that this is a vec 4. Sure. Cool, that built. And let's restart Zepha. Oh. Hold on, I need to kill this on repeat because I accidentally queued up a bunch of opens. Okay. Try that again. Alright, the world should now be fully illuminated. Once it renders. Yes, okay, perfect. Cool, so that means that the world is actually taking that value. Now we just need to pass in the proper value from the dimension into the renderer. To answer your question about whether or not I have non-cubic models, yeah, so there's this grass here, which has these kind of like pushed out faces going on. All of the tall grass is actually a billboarded model, which isn't necessary for like performance or anything. I do have more traditional block models like this, but I really like how it looks. It makes the grass always face you, which makes the whole environment feel a lot more dense, in my opinion. These tree trunks are also kind of funky. They're different shapes and stuff. I guess these are all sort of like quad-ized still. There is support for things that aren't derived from quads, although it's kind of broken. Like if I give myself... Oops, I pressed T by accident, and now it's got this really jank-ass skybox. If I place this cone... That's interesting. It's darker than it should be. You can see it's kind of messed up. It's supposed to be solid around all sides. I have, like, a really weird rendering pipeline that tries to convert tries into a format that this engine supports, and it's kind of borked. But the idea is that eventually it'll support triangles as well, properly. Okay, let's... So just confirming if I press T again, so that does make it nighttime. Nighttime, but it's still full brightness. Let's try actually passing in the light multiplier. So currently the renderer needs to set it, okay? And we could pass these in to draw chunks as a parameter. I'm just trying to decide if that's the right call. I mean, I already do that for entities where I pass in the number of bones, so I think I can probably do that. We'll just do it like that. And then in the C++ side, we'll take those in. Skylight. Block light. Cool. And then on the side where we actually draw the chunks, which is in the client dimension. Why is that not... Huh. Okay, hold on. Watching other people makes you go and code again. I feel like that is just like the mind virus. I watched that GMTK video where he accidentally made another game like yesterday, and I was like, ugh, now I want to develop more, damn it. Okay, so we're drawing the chunks. So this is the client dimensions draw chunks, and then it calls the renders draw chunks, which is perfect because we already have the skylight multiplier and the block light multiplier. Why doesn't that exist? Hold on. Oh, it's called node light multiplier. I'm getting my own nomenclature mixed up. I'm gonna quickly go and fix that. Let's just go here. Node light. Does that actually change it on the header? Of course not. Because why would the language integration for C++ ever be anything other than terrible? Yep. Okay, well that's fine, and then we'll go over here. And I want to replace this with node light. Node light. Cool. Coding tired, watching other devs doing their games, and now I want to code again. I'm taking a break from game dev since dealing with things. I'm glad I took a deliberate break instead of forcing myself through it. It's always good to try and, like, not burn yourself out. I kind of encountered a situation like that recently, and I'm sort of currently taking a break. For the people that don't know, I'm currently working on a commercial project with a friend of mine from university and business partner who is in chat right now. And we've been kind of like grinding for the past 3 weeks, like a lot of time on the project. And we just recently had a deadline fall through where we just don't really need to worry about it anymore. And I was like, wow, I've had no life outside of this project since like the beginning of the month. I'm gonna take a little break and make a YouTube video, so I'm feeling good about that. Hopefully that should be good. Alright, hopefully this should work. We're not immediately getting a compiler error, so that's a good sign. It's going. Wait, it failed. What? No. What happened? Could not match 4 against 3. That sounds accurate. Oh, okay, this is a vec 3. Okay. let's just actually make this take the signature that everything would expect it to take. Because there's no sense in reducing the alpha of the Skylight, or the node light. I feel like I made a really weird short-sighted decision when I made this a Vec 4 like 10 seconds ago. Because yes, the alignment is nice, but I'm pretty sure, and this might come back to bite me, I'm pretty sure that it will just automatically pad itself, because it's so close to being a Vec 4. But we'll find out. Thank you! Yep, see ya! Alright. Let's see how this goes. So many build errors. Or build warnings, I suppose. Alright. Please work, please work. I don't want to deal with this. Yay, okay. Okay, so let's wait till the environment renders. And then I'm gonna give myself... Well, I kind of spoiled it apparently, because I keep accidentally pressing T while spawning in the block I want. Whoa! Okay. Clearly I have incorrectly scaled that block light multiplier. Wow! Also seg-faulted the game again. What the hell happened there? So this node light multiplier... Hey there, Trevor! This node light multiplier is going to be set by the renderer to node light. What is the default value of node light? Let's go look at the client dimension. What are you? Are you not 1? You are 1. I wonder if the padding actually did come to get me. Because if it was all shifted by... Yeah, if it was shifted by 1 byte... No, 4 bytes. It would be shifted by 4 bytes, which shouldn't do that. So what the hell happened? Hold on. Do I actually call set node light multiplier anywhere? It doesn't look like it. Like, I have definitions for it, but I don't actually call it anywhere with a value. So... the node light multiplier... Huh. Let's try setting these back to Vec 4s. I feel like this is ultimately the evil thing, because... Yeah, and then we just go Vec 4, 1, Vec 4, 1... Let's try it again. Yeah, that was surprising. Very intense blue light. How do I get a light without accidentally typing the T character? Because there's multiple T's in the name. I guess I could just change the keybind, actually. That probably makes the most sense. Here, let me quickly stop this, and then I'm just gonna change this key to enter. Wait, no, enter will happen if I press enter to make the thing go. Damn it, what is a key that I'm not gonna... Alright, let's just do 0. I think that's a key that I can register. I guess I'll test. Yeah, okay. Give Zeus default light blue. Okay, now we're properly scaled, so it was the padding. I knew I was right to be afraid of that. Okay, so if I press T, or 0, you can see that it dims the environment, and it actually also changes the hue of the lighting, of the sunlight. Let me give myself a few different lights to place around. Even though the game is gonna seg-fault when I go back to full daylight, but that's okay. Just want to demonstrate Okay, cool. So we've got a bunch of lights down, right? And when I press 0, it's gonna move over to sunrise. And sunrise is more orange tinted than the current values, which are blue tinted right now. So when I do this, you can see that the entire environment gets more orangey, right? And also, obviously, these get dimmer because the environment is brighter. These lights over here specifically are, like, barely illuminated, right? Okay, and then if I press it again, it didn't crash. Huh, weird. Okay, so you can see these lights here are now entirely dark. Like, you can't really see any light coming from them. These ones still do have a little bit of visible light around them, because I've actually made it so the default sunlight value is not the maximum light value in the engine, which means that you can actually have lights that are brighter than sunlight to a degree, if you want to, because that can exist. And then if I press it one more time, we're gonna crash. Yep, off we go. I'm really curious why that happened, actually. I guess now that we've gotten this technically working, let's try and debug that real quick. Let's reopen the game in debug mode. Okay, brighter than the sun casting on the earth. Okay. I know that you can't have something on the earth that's brighter than the sun's surface. Okay, so we're rebuilding in the debug mode, so I should be able to actually detect why a seg fault happens when it does. Hopefully it still does. Oh god, my least favorite type of bugs to like identify are bugs that only happen in release mode and not debug mode. It's so frustrating. Release with debug info tends to help with that, but it's not always, like, you know, a perfect solution. Alright. I guess I don't need a light source in the environment. Let's just wait until a couple chunks render. Good enough. And then I'm just gonna start hitting keys. It's getting darker. Darker, brighter. Brighter. Ah! Okay. Segmentation faults. I need to quickly kill the Zephyr window because it's still trapping my mouse. Okay. Let's look at the run and debug. Where are we? We are in main on a V8 section for entity set appearance. Interesting. So I can only assume that that's actually happening in here when the Skybox's appearance is being changed. Because it gets the texture set, it also gets the texture blend set, and I'm kind of curious. I suspect this is the problem here. Because it is on set appearance, right? Yep. It calls set appearance, and then there's a bunch of memory that can't be accessed, which is super helpful, thanks. Thanks, VS Code. Okay, so... Oh, this... Okay, hold on. It actually crashes on make entity mesh. So... right here, entity textures, I'm guessing that we actually have just like too many textures. Maybe. But why would it crash here? This is a texture ref. And then we're pushing back. Oh, okay, this might be a null pointer issue. So there should only be one texture that's existing here. So let's just go if entity textures. Hey Smarty, how you doing? Okay, so the seg fault's here, and I'm assuming it's because there's a null pointer. Let's go if texture texture.second. If not texture.second, throw std exception null pointer in textures. This is just me trying to diagnose the problem. Why do I not know how to do this? It has been a long time since I've done this. Oh, it's just because exception is like the base class, yeah? Okay. Runtime error. Cool. Ah, what happened? Oh, I tried to resume it after it was debugging. Alright, let's try that again, and hopefully this should error out here instead of giving me a horrible seg fault. Okay, I don't even need to wait for the chunks to load. I can just start spamming it. I'm glad you had a good day. Alright, crash. Yes, okay, null pointer in textures. Okay, I was correct. So we've got a null pointer going on here. This make entity mesh. Let's find where it's being used. Right here. And it's getting the textures from mapped textures, where, yeah, the first texture is just the texture ref. Wait, what? Hold on. What is texture refs, first off? Client scripted entity, okay, that's just holding texture refs. Then we clear it, we reserve the number of textures that this has, and then for each of those textures we push back, getting that texture. But then we create this mapped textures, which only takes the first one. I'm assuming that's because I wrote this code like an idiot, and I don't yet support multiple textures for the entities, even though I allow you to specify them. So, but regardless, that means that the problem is probably right here with this client textures get. Get sounds like it's just a getter, which is probably my own fault, but it actually does a lot of other stuff. Let's actually uncomment this requested line. It actually dynamically creates textures if we request a texture string that it can understand. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that we're not actually deleting any textures if we create them. So I'm assuming that just when I change the time of day, yeah, we end up with hundreds of different little textures here that are slightly different. And then it never actually deletes any of them. Did you miss the stream already? No. It's only been about an hour, so you're a bit late. But no, we're fine. Okay, yeah, so I'm guessing... Alright, we got a seg fault at the exact same spot. Yeah, I'm genuinely thinking that it's just the case that I've, like, exhausted all of the memory available. Because I requested this Skybox low, alpha 0.02, Skybox sunset low. Although... Huh. Because that's this texture here. It was requested multiple times, the exact same texture, right? So, that's kinda weird that it's crashing at that point, because even if the issue was that we weren't deleting textures, we clearly have enough space to store all of them because we did a full loop, and we tried to request one that already existed, right? So maybe the actual issue is that I'm storing weak pointers and then not properly clearing them. And then I'm dereferencing, or I'm referencing the weak pointer, expecting it to not be a null pointer, and it is. Are you the rubber duck? I mean, basically, yeah. We're trying to figure out, I can show you what we're trying to figure out. Basically, so, actually, I can, nah, I don't want to turn it off of debug yet, because there's probably a lot of useful things that will tell me. Okay, if I open this up, and we wait for some terrain to spawn in, debug mode makes everything sad and slow. Why is it over there? Oh, there we go. Okay. So from here, we have a list terrain. Hey Neff, how you doing? Yeah, it has been a while, hasn't it? If I press 0, the skybox changes, the light gets darker. How moody, how exciting. But as you can see, I'm generating a bunch of like really shitty intermediates of the skybox texture that are low res and awful, and that's not how I'm going to do it in the final game, but it is a good test of the fact that the texture system is crashing, because as soon as I press it one more time, we've done a complete loop, I'm going to press it one more time, it's going to try to generate the same texture that it already used once before, and then psych fault. And so I'm thinking it's something wrong with my reference counting. Nice skybox, thank you. I think I just grabbed it from that one website that has like all the HDRs, HDR Haven? HDR High Haven or something? So what I'm thinking, if we go to Texture Atlas and we actually look at it, we have all of these strings to weak pointers of textures, right? And when we generate a new texture in add image here, we delete whatever used to be assigned to it, and then we create a new texture in the allocator, and then we place it in. So that's storing the weak pointer, and then we return it. At any point, if all of the non-weak references to that texture stop existing, then it's going to basically make that weak pointer now point to a null pointer, which should clear it from the atlas, and I'm guessing that it doesn't. Let's see. Unlink texture? So that is the function that should be done. Does it ever get called, though? It does, actually. We don't need to put the allocators destructor in here because they had to... Okay, hold on. I've been bamboozled. Okay, so the reason that it is being used in one spot, and that spot is right here on add crop. Add crop creates a texture reference that's just a crop of another existing texture, and it depends on the existing texture, which means that it will basically keep the existing texture in memory so long as it exists, and then once it stops existing, it just needs to dereference itself from the atlas, but it doesn't need to remove the memory because the main parent texture will remove its memory. So, where is our add image? This is the one that we need to actually care about, probably, because this ref here, this is the texture pointer, and I don't think it has any deallocation logic. Let's take a look. So allocator add in the Vulkan array allocator, this is what creates the texture. And it does a bunch of shit. I've not looked at this for so long, but I think what's happening is that there are a bunch of these things which each manage individual arrays, and then it finds one, or creates one, then calls add on the manager, which is down here, and then this, let's see, so we get a texture array. Wait, why is the array manager... Does the array manager have more than one array? I don't understand why I wrote it like this. Hold on. Yeah, the array manager has more than one array. So, why would I create more than one array manager? Do I ever create more than one array manager? Let's look back at this. So when we call add on VK array allocator, we grab a manager index. Oh, I get it, I understand. So we have a different, we have a different array manager for each size of array. We insert the thing into the smallest power of 2 array that will fit it. And so each manager manages its own set of arrays for that size. So we find the array for the right size, and then we tell it to add. Typing arrow in C++ always makes me feel smart. Like, yeah, that's right, I'm using pointers. I love C++'s syntax. It's nice. Although, I have to admit, I do really like Lua's colon for, like, a bound operator, and I kind of wish they did that instead of the arrow. Like, in Lua, if you have some structure that has a method in it, like if you have, like, your table, this is going to be syntax error, how, and then you have, like, x equals function this a b, and then it does something, then you can call table.x, and then you'd have to put table, and then, like, whatever your parameters are. Or you can call table:x, and then your parameters, and it basically automatically puts the value you're calling it on as the first argument. So these two lines are the same. And I kind of feel like the colon syntax would be cooler for, like, dereferencing a pointer, just because it would be one symbol and it's closer to a period. I think it would be a bit cleaner. Lambda functions? Lambda functions are awesome! Okay, so... was it Polyhaven by any chance? I don't think so. Unless they rebranded. Oh, they did rebrand. Yeah, so then yes. They used to just be called HDRI Haven, but now they are called Polyhaven, apparently. Cool. Alright, so we have the array allocator. It gets an array. If the array's full, then it creates a new array. Yep, no worries. And then we throw a bunch of data into here, and then we create a new pointer. Polyhaven sounds like a place where you find a polycule. It really does. Has not changed the HDRI in years. It's true, it's just sitting there. Okay, so the texture gets created, and then it gets a destructor here, which is bound to the array allocator. That's interesting. And then it calls array manager remove. Oh! Oh, fuck me. Okay. Observe, and you will see why I'm pissed at myself. So, for the last several months, I've been seeing this in my console, and going, huh, that's probably me writing something important in there. I'm just gonna ignore it because it doesn't matter. So yeah, here we go. Here's my totally properly working array manager freeing code. Okay, cool. Let's actually dig into this. So there's a couple things that need to be done. For the first thing, we need to actually make it remove the texture. But this isn't a texture, because this is an array manager. Oh, I guess that just binds this. That just sets the member, but the texture is passed in by the reference. Yeah, so that texture pointer is the texture. So we need to make it so that the array allocator deallocates that texture, which is... Yeah, so we have this... something, something else, something else. What about it? Huh? Oh, this? Texture Atlas VK Array Allocator Array Manager? Yeah, it's namespacing. It's just because the array manager... Where is it? Array manager is defined inside the class, or the struct texture array, I think, or array allocator. So the namespace goes down by one level. It's just... It's a weird C++ syntax thing. Okay, so... Our array manager has a create array function, which... and places back the array and then updates it. What am I looking at here? That writes an image. Yeah, it's pretty common syntax, although I don't know how common it is to be able to use a class as a namespace. I think less languages do that. Created X-array. Okay, so our allocator is the array allocator, and it holds a list of textures. This, I'm assuming, does some Vulkan bullshit. Can you tell it's been like 2 years since I've actually touched the rendering code? And then okay, so this is the big deal. So we have arrays here. Nope. Arrays here, which is inside the array manager. It's a unique pointer of texture array. What is texture array? Okay, stop going to the definition of the unique pointer. Okay, so inside of the array allocator, we have this texture array, which has a underlying texture, a size, and an index. It has a %full, it has an isFull, then it has a next free and a free. So I think what's happening here is basically when I insert values into the array, into the texture array, it chooses a value in free if it exists, which let's assume it doesn't. Otherwise, it increments next free by 1 and uses the old value of next free. So basically, the first time you insert into the array, next free is 0, so then it puts it in slot 0, increments next free to 1. Then, after that, it goes, okay, so what about now? And then it goes, okay, next free is 1, so we'll put it in 1 and increments it to 2. But now if the array in index 0 gets erased, it puts 0, or if the texture in index 0 stops being needed, then it puts 0 into free. And then next time we try to insert something, it checks if this has something in it first, and since it does, it removes that from there and overrides that texture because it's no longer needed. So that logic checks out. I just don't think I'm actually using it, because I don't think that I delete from it ever. I guess let's find out. So we have create array, and then we set the array. I love this. This is beautiful logic. Wow. Oh, why did I do this? Okay, sure. So that gets us like an array with an empty slot. Then if array.free is empty, then we set it to next free plus plus. Otherwise, we take the back element, which is the end. Why is this the end? It should surely be the front. I don't care. I wonder, are you using a block registry of some sort? Yes, I have a block atlas, or a node atlas, which stores... Or sorry, I guess it's technically an item atlas. Because all blocks are items, and all items are technically blocks, but with a placeable property set to false. But the item atlas is a atlas of item definition, which just contains a bunch of shit about how blocks work. Blocks and items in the game have a per runtime index, which is what the engine actually refers to them as when it's like doing logic. And then they have a stable string identifier, which is used when serializing. I wish GD script had namespaces so I can go agent handler.action.create action. It doesn't have them? Wow. That's kind of awkward, honestly. Okay, so this logic is working. But we don't have anything to remove it from the array manager, which is just... I truly have created something beautiful, I suppose. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go, so what is in texture? Do we have its index? I don't think so, unless res is that? It is, okay. For VK array allocate, oh wow, this is old code. Sure. For VK array allocator, this info is texture index array layer. Let's confirm that that's true. So when I create texture, in VK array allocator. I give it array.index and layer. Okay. And layer is the next free value. Wow, okay. This code is kind of really bad. Okay, it's sad, everything is global class, oof. Wait, what is an HTTP file? It's just a header. Lots of people use .h. I don't personally like doing that because then it makes your headers file extensions shorter, and it also makes programs think that it's actually a C header when it's a C++. But I always use CPP and HPP. Okay, so Y here is the layer, and we're gonna go we're gonna go... Okay, so we have the texture res x, which is our array, and we're gonna go let array equals arrays texture res x. We want a reference to it. And then we're gonna go array free in place back texture res y. Okay. Thank you, base to oblivion. Okay, so that'll free the texture slot, but it won't free the reference to it in the actual texture atlas. Now, I could try to tunnel my way up. If I go to this allocator texture, nope, atlas, that gives me the texture atlas. Then we go unlink texture. That should erase it. Alright, let's see if that works. Okay, hopefully we shouldn't break the universe now if I change the time. Oh, or it'll happen immediately. Okay. Interesting. Let's debug this, because clearly we've somehow messed up a pointer somewhere. You can only Rust and Python and C#. I really like Rust. I'm not a fan of Python. I actually don't think that C++ would be too big of a leap if you wanted to learn it from knowing Rust. Although, I'm not sure, like, why would you want to learn C++ if you're proficient in Rust? Like, I prefer it because I like the curse shit it lets you do, but, like, every time I've heard a Rust programmer talk, they've kind of just thought, or they've said that Rust is just better. I want to make a little tutorial series where people can learn basics of programming with the example of Godot. It's fun because you can see results immediately. Yeah, game engines are really good starting points for learning to code because you get that immediate gratification of being able to see that you did something. I don't use Rust because of semantic nitpicks. Yeah, what have I done? Hold on. Fucking... No. I am so bad with the keyboard shortcuts of htop. Okay, there we go. Nope, that didn't kill it. Why didn't that? Oh, because the process is still alive. I just killed the window. I really do not like how if statements need curly braces, but not parentheses. That really bothers me a lot. That feels like the worst decision that anyone's ever made in a language. And I know that's just me being dramatic. I like the curse shit too, you know, for giggles. Fair enough. I really like curse programming. Okay. What is happening here? So we're calling array.free.inplaceback. So what I'm guessing is the case is this array doesn't exist. Let's go here, and we're gonna go if texture res x is greater or equal to arrays.size, throw new error. Or that's JavaScript syntax. Throw std runtime error. Failed res value was wrong. And I'm gonna go log warn, oh wait, sorry, warn texture.res, or texture res. I want to get that printed out. I'm almost certain that there's some sort of memory corruption going on there. If that's not the case, that'll be interesting. C++ is great for solo stuff. Yeah, I can agree with that. It's very customizable, and you can make your own cursed little world where everything makes sense. Like how I've got, like, macros for all of this stuff, but it's not very scalable to a team, because then everyone's like, why did you do that? Okay, 0. Warning, 5.4. Res value is wrong. Okay, what the hell just happened? Array index. What are you? I swear, I'm gonna freak out if it keeps bringing me to the type definition of U16vec2. Index is defined here in texture array. When I create a texture array, what am I setting it to? Make unique texture array, allocator.textures.size. Ah, okay. So that's not the index of the actual texture. That's the index. So it's not the index of the array in allocator.textures. What am I saying? So this is the index of the texture in the allocator. Which is weird. Why would I do that? Also, apparently we've left my stream save music. Hold on, let me restart that. It wasn't set to loop properly. Although I did like that song. I glanced at the code of Bonsai, which is another voxel engine. Cursed world is an understatement. Yeah, C++ is really fucked up. Hold on, I'm running behind on chat. Error expected int, asterisk int, but found int asterisk. Oof. I don't like how errors are handled in C++. That's fair. I mean, I don't like exceptions as a concept. I think errors are, like result types are a lot nicer. Although I do like that errors allow you to have, like, zero-cost happy paths. I've noticed the cat ears have become a staple part of the stream now. Hey, I mean, they're about to die in 5 minutes, so... I hate when I forget what I'm saying halfway through saying it. ADHD is so fun. Are you making a voxel engine or making something in a voxel engine? I'm making a voxel engine. By that song... I mean, what the hell had just happened? Ah. You use optionals for a lot of stuff. Yeah, I like optionals in most languages. I think C++ kind of defeats the purpose of them because it just makes them pointers. Like, they have the exact same semantics as pointers, so you're just as likely to have null pointers if you use them. Or not null pointers, but invalid memory. Because you do, like, an unchecked dereference, and it's like, ooh. Oh, is that a song that was playing? Interesting, okay. I guess it just auto-played. Alright, so... why did I do this? Because I'm assuming that there's a reason why I'm using allocator.textures here. Wait. Textures is a texture array pointer. So, wait, is this the right index? Because we call create array, and that's in the array manager, and then it goes to allocator.textures, which is the texture array. So no, that is not what I want. So let's actually take a look. So array manager here gets the texture, and then this res value encodes the array's index within the allocator, which is just not helpful to me, and I suspect that I just typoed. But to know if that's true, I need to check where I used res, because if it's used somewhere... So that's my code that I just wrote. That's just creating, like, copying stuff. That has nothing to do with... Oh, no. This is useful. Yeah, okay. So... Okay, so... Oof. Okay, so I need res to be as is because res is actually how I reference the texture in the GPU. That's why it exists. Which should probably be documented. Stores the location of the texture within the texture information, or within the texture array provided to the GPU. First index is the index of the texture array within the array. I swear that's actually what it is. Second index is the index of the texture within its array. Okay, sorry, someone said are optionals allocated on the heap? No, they aren't. I'm just talking about how the actual, like, accessing of them is the exact same as arrays. Like, to access their value, you can use the asterisk to dereference it, and then if it's invalid, then it just explodes. Optionals don't need a pointer per se. Agreed, yeah. You have a macro dialect that avoids that? That's fair, that's fair. Okay, so now that we know that that needs to be stable there. Okay. When is this UUID used? What is this for? What is texture UUIDs? Oh, it's just for hashing it. Okay, I see how that is. Oh, why did I do this to myself? Okay, so that means that I need to provide... Okay, where's my regular bind? I have bind this. What I need to do is we're gonna make this a this is gonna become a lambda, which takes in a texture pointer text, and it's going to go texture atlas, or then it's gonna go this remove text semicolon, and then I'm also going to include within this here what the actual array is, because do I need the index of the array? I don't think I do. I think I just need to get it. So I'm just gonna pass in array here, and I'm gonna change the signature of this to also take a texture array reference. And we're gonna go into here and get it. Dereference it in there. And now we have the array. Now we can free the texture and unlink it. And everything will be happy and there will be no issue. Closures are ugly in C++. They're fine. They're kind of ugly. So is this a Minecraft-like game? If so, are you actually going to make it different with than Minecraft with a few mods? Yes. So it's a voxel engine. The engine itself is meant to just be very, very general. But, whoa. Okay, that is loud. Please don't do that again. No, stop. Okay, ears timer is out. I'm free. Okay, so basically the idea here is the engine is very general, but I'm working on making a sci-fi game in the engine, which basically involves like progressing through the environment and shape-shifting into different alien forms and like upgrading them to survive in the environment. Okay, is this gonna work? No! Why? Why do you hate me? Okay. I'm not sure what's going on. Let's run it in debug mode. because it should be working. Why didn't that... Am I crazy? That should have ran in debug mode. What? What is happening? It is in debug mode, but when I crash it, it just hard crashes. It doesn't even pause the debugger. Well, that's just great. Okay, let's read the stack trace. C++ stack trace, yay! Okay, stack use after return. Wow, this is super nice to read. Okay, it's in set appearance again. Array manager add, line 48. Array line 50. Okay, so if I understand this properly, which chances are I don't, this array is being populated, or this value is being populated, and then when I throw it into this closure, it's freaking out. And I'm guessing that's because array here is a pointer that is coming from... So arrays is a unique pointer. Okay, so hold on. That should be okay, because the underlying pointer of the texture array, since it's in a unique pointer, should be constant. Which means that getting it here should give me a stable reference. And then... Okay, what if I just, like... What if I copy the array instead of referencing it? Like, it's just copying the pointer, right? So, in theory, that should work. I love capture clauses. Capture clauses are great. I see what you mean about the lambdas now. Oh my god, it's magical. Is it gonna work? Passed on? It worked! It worked! Okay, hold on. That's good. That's really good. We're gonna do one more thing. First of all, let me explain what the hell just happened. Ah, hold on. Can I not do that? Why can't I capture and this by reference? Fine, I'll just do it like that. Do I not remember the syntax of this? Oh, no, I remember it. It just has to be like this, right? I think it's just out of date. My linting is very bad at, like, updating itself. Yep, there we go, it's fine. That's a trick I use in Rust. I'll turn things I'm passing into a closure into references and then use move semantics. Yeah, so I think the actual problem was when I did and here, it captured array as a reference to the value on the stack which contained the pointer. And then when this function ended, it lost that memory. And then when the closure eventually happened and I tried to dereference the pointer was garbage data. And then it ended up with a seg fault. But by using equals array, I guess you can't do that. You just have to do it like this, which really bugs me. Because, like, you type equals if you want everything to be passed by value. But you have to not put in equals if you want it to be passed by value and it's got a name, you have to use and if you want it to be a reference. It's stupid. Syntax, dumb. Anyway, so by copying it by value, we are just copying the value of the pointer's location into here, which is just the pointer. Then we dereference it, and then it works. Okay. And then if we go over to Texture Atlas, I want to write a warning. Unlinking texture. Current textures. Textures.size. I just want to make sure that we're not accumulating more textures right now. Because we shouldn't be. Oh. Huh. I'm not even getting that warning. Oh. It didn't compile, but it still ran. Thank you, C++. Or I guess CMake is actually at fault right now. Let's bring this back to release. Do. 5. I have no idea how this percentage ends up getting computed. Like, it's been on 35 forever, but it's just incrementing. It's very strange. I mean, it seems mostly accurate, but it's, like, how does it happen? Okay. 265 textures, 264, 264, 264. Alright, we're working. We're ballin'. It's working. Yay. So if I want to show off now... Actually, hold on. Before I show off, I'm gonna get rid of the fog. The fog was mostly a test. I do want to have fog eventually in the system, but the way that I've done the fog here is absolutely not the way I'm going to do it in the final project. Especially because it doesn't even work properly. I had to do it basically... I had no way of distinguishing between the skybox and the world. So to make the skybox not get consumed by fog, I had to basically just, like, clamp the distance that the fog applies at. So you can see over here, it's no longer fogging this. It's really, really bad, and I'm gonna end up basically just, like, creating a material type that is just like, are you a UI element, a skybox, or an in-world element? And then it won't affect the skyboxes. But I think I'm just gonna disable the fog entirely for now, because this is insanely dumb. Can I sample the skybox instead of a color? Maybe? But I don't know. Yeah, there's no clamp on render distance right now. You can just see forever. And now that I did the inverse Z stuff that someone in my chat finally convinced me to do, it doesn't even jank out, which is nice. Ooh. Why would the skybox be rendered with fog at all? I would have rendering for the skybox and world separately. The skybox is rendering in the entities set, because technically it is an entity, because that's how I scripted the environment to work. Effectively, like, right now, the skybox is just a really big entity that gets constantly moved to be next to the player. That is not how I want to do it in the end. I already have this, like, appearance mode property that entities have, and I want to make an appearance mode called Skybox, which basically puts it in a separate render queue. It renders it regardless of the camera's position before everything else, or maybe after everything else. I don't know, whatever. I guess after would reduce the overdraw, but it would also potentially screw with semi-translucent pixels with anti-aliasing, so I will figure it out. But yeah, basically from that... Yes, this is a cube map. It is a cube. If I change it to sunset, you can see very obviously it is, because it's not at all tiled properly. You can also, if I zoom really far in, see the pixels, which is kind of funny. But, yeah, so the skybox will eventually get its own render mode, and any sky elements will as well, which will cause them to always be under everything else, but not affected by stuff like fog. But, for now, I'm just going to turn off the fog. Which I think is in the deferred fragment shader. Yeah. Okay, this should kill the fog. There's really no standard approach to skyboxes. Yeah, it kind of feels that way. Okay, no fog. Fog is dead. Now if I make it... It's BP. It's perfect. Let's play some lights then. Cyan lights. I like cyan lights. Boop. Boop. Whoa. That was a lag spike and a half. Boop. 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 Alright. Let's take a look at these as it turns to sunrise. So you can see that, like, the impact of the light decays over time and then comes back. Make it sample the background? I mean, I could make it blend into the skybox, maybe? The thing is with that, I'd need to basically render the environment to a texture, store the depth buffer, and then when I'm rendering, then I'd have to render it again as a texture and modulate its alpha over top of the skybox by the distance from the terrain, which overall I do like the idea of doing, but I'm worried about the, like, cost of drawing it multiple times like that. Oh no, what happened? Okay, this looks so funky without fog. I can see all those ugly-ass shadows over there because I haven't got the light propagation in the map gen doing anything beyond just going straight down. I do really like looking out into the sunset, though. Like, I feel like that is a pretty cool sight. And I like how the nightlight actually changes the tint of the, like, light that is there. If I went over to the main file again, which is apparently just where I put everything, yeah, these are the light multipliers for dark. If I wanted it to be, like, really green for some reason, I could do this. Then if I run it, hello, please die. There we go. If I run it, and then I set it to nighttime. So this is sunset, nice and normal, and now this is nighttime. It's radioactive. But, like, that's just because we affected the global Skylight's multiplier, so it's now greener. Technically, I could do something even weirder, which is I could make it so that if it is nighttime, which, let's see, time vec is this one. There we go. If current time is equal to 2, yeah, then we can go dim.set node light multiplier 1 0 0, else dim.set node light multiplier 1 1 1. This is like, I have no idea why you'd ever want to do this. I just want to show that it can work, because I think there are applications of this that are interesting, just not what I'm doing here, okay? So, I'm gonna give Zeus default light white, okay? This is a entirely neutral light source. If I turn it to sunset, you can see it is casting white light. Now, if I do this, whoop, okay, apparently I have the wrong index. So during sunrise, which I guess if I want to show that, let's make a hole. Expand 20 set air. Expand 40, set air. There we go, nice and dark. Now if I give Zeus default light white, and I put it at the end here, you can see it's illuminated, nice. And then if I go to sunrise, now it's red, because I set the node light multiplier in here to be 100, so it's only showing the red component. And to prove that works, if I give myself a blue light, and I put it here, so that's nice blue light, ignore that, that's just a bug with the light propagation. And now we turn it to nighttime, and it's nice and dark. Now this light is entirely invisible, because it's only outputting pure blue. My keyboard isn't tweaking anymore. I also learned that my mouse is stuck in the USB slot somehow. Huh. What I was trying to ask before my keyboard started freaking out, I was wondering if you're actually using a cube map texture for the Skybox rather than rendering it onto a cube. No, I am rendering it onto a cube. I ask because if you're just rendering onto a cube, you'll see seams. If you can use a cube map texture and sample based on the look direction. Why would I do that? You're saying I'd see seams. I'm assuming that's because... Like, are you talking about these sorts of seams where I've just done the texture wrong? Because that's all that's happening here. There's no seams there. Or are you talking about, like, seams with, like, floating point accuracy where you could potentially see through the border of the texture? Seams in the texture itself? Well, that's just because this is a bad texture. Like, I could just bake a proper texture and not have that happen. Like, it doesn't happen at all in sunlight. There's no visible seams here. This is where it changes over. You can tell because the angle of the pixels differs slightly, but there's no seam. But yeah, so as soon as I set this to sunrise, it just completely changes the lighting. Also, I will say, I really do like looking at this as it gets darker and seeing the blue take over the lighting of this outside area as well. Because this area is brighter than moonlight, but a lot darker than sunlight, right? Which I think is cool. Also, I'm very glad the sunlight propagation's actually kind of working. I don't know why it is, to be honest. I don't remember making that work, but if I, like, expand this by 100 and then set air, this does get dark as we go in. It's not very linear, but that's kind of an existing problem. And then... let's go here, here, expand 200, set air. Oh, shit. I accidentally expanded it horizontally. Well, let's do expand 200 up, set air. There we go, now we've got sunlight coming down. You'd probably still prefer to use a cube map, then you don't need to render a cube. You can render the quad in the background of the world in front of the camera and project onto that. I mean, I could do that. It just kind of feels like a micro-optimization, especially with the overhead that it would cost me to actually, like, add that to the modding API. Because, like, keep in mind, I need to make it so that the modding API can render skyboxes, right? And adding a cube map rendering option would add more states to what an entity can be, and just make that kind of complicated. And I'm not sure what the actual benefit is other than, like, theoretical cleanliness. Like, I know it would make it a bit more efficient, but would it actually make a measurable difference? You guys want to see something cool? If I go like this, and I make a big hole, and then I go out, like this, right? Is that connecting? No. Well, let's just go expand 5 up, and then I set this to air. So you can see that this light, it's like cascading a reasonable amount from the sun, right, coming down. But if I expand 100 down, let's make it daytime again so it's not dumb, and then I set this to air. Whoa. That's not what I expected would happen. What's happening here? Oh, okay, just failed to update, I guess. Did it actually work? I'm trying to tell if that actually did what I want. It would make it more correct. I mean, I'm just ultimately not too worried about, like, strict correctness. Expand 50 down, set air. Huh, that's actually not working. Okay. I wanted to demonstrate how cool my lighting system was, and that if there's more distance between a sunlight source and where it's cascading down to, the sunlight actually gets bigger. But it doesn't work, so I can't really show it, can I? Yeah, that's actually a system that I created with the lighting to basically make it feasible to have floating islands. Because if I want to make, like, you know, my game is a sci-fi. I kind of like the idea of it being, like, if you fly up enough in, like, a spaceship, then the sky turns dark and you end up finding, like, an asteroid belt, right? But if I render asteroids super high up in the world, and light shadow just spans forever, then it would basically cause the, like, as soon as you render that terrain up there, it would add just, like, tons of shadows on the real world down below. Which is not how the real world works at all, right? Like, shadows kind of diffuse over time and eventually become unnoticeable. So, the system that I did is, if you have cascading sunlight going down, and there's non-cascading light to the sides of it, every, I think, 8 blocks, it attempts to horizontally span as well, and it'll allow the cascading sunlight to basically go out diagonally over time, which results in the sunlight getting bigger and the shadows getting smaller, but it doesn't work, and I don't know why. Also, don't worry about messaging chat too much, that's not a problem. I like hearing about it, even if I don't necessarily agree with, like, the takeaway. It's not bothering me to hear about it, I just was trying to understand, like, what the reasoning was for it. Enum entity type node skybox structure keybind entity? Hi, I've been coding in the background for a while now, but I thought I'd tune in for a bit. Oh, hi, welcome. Not sure why YouTube decided to notify me about your stream, but I'm glad to be here. Thanks. Glad to have you here. So, okay. I'm trying to, like, actually do what I'm supposed to do. I'm getting distracted by just, like, flying around and looking at lights. Object permanence has failed as well. This hole is small now. Because, currently the game doesn't care if there are chunks, like if the chunks already existed, when it goes to generate new chunks, it will just generate them in the same spot and overwrite things. This is a weird one. You'd never really see this in practice without lighting glitches, but you can see that this, like, little piece that's going over here is way darker. It's actually this color, because it's part of this block. The sunset cube map looks like a colored selector. It kind of does. These seams are so funky. My friend made this cube map for me, like, 2 years ago, just as, like, a little, like, he took this, and then just went into GIMP and started drawing colors over it. And then, you know, it looked kind of neat, so I put it on to test. And then he was like, no, you should keep it, after I saw that it was broken. And I was like, okay, I guess. And so it still looks like this. This is a weird one. There's, like, a bunch of leaves spawning down here. I assume because my map gen is, like, glitching out its relative coordinates, because they seem to be, like, directly below the trees that got cut off at the top. Maybe I should have a Skybox creation contest. Other than the seams on the Skybox, I really like the sunset. Yeah, I really like it too. It's like, it's very nice colors. They feel very dynamic. I'm gonna refill my water. Just give me like 1 second. I will be right back. just spilled water all over my chair. Jeez. Alright, I'm back. Cube map extension for Credo would be really cool. That would be really cool, actually, if you could have, like, nice, seamless, like, tiling. You could do that in... You could probably do that... No, you couldn't do that. I was gonna say you could do that in, like, A-Sprite, because you can place tiles wherever you want. But because it's a cube, it doesn't actually, like, in the corners, there's no way to organize that such that, you know, if you're drawing on a 2D plane, it blends nicely. It is kind of an inherently 3D thing. Volumetric atmosphere and cloud. Just a skybox right now, unfortunately. Oh, I wanted to check something. Now that I've finally fixed that texture deallocation thing, if I quit the game, does it close nicely now, or does it still segfault to hell? I think it's segfaulting to hell. Maybe. It just stayed there. Excuse me. Game. Yep, that was a segfault. Should I debug that? I should probably debug that. Let's... Oh, let's do it. I'm just gonna open it in debug mode and immediately close it, because it's super slow. But that should give us a pretty good look at what's happening. Something that I really wish C++ had is better scoping between projects. Like, for example, I've encountered issues before where my macros cause, like, other projects that are dependencies to break, because there's no scoping of those sorts of things. And, like, for example, I build my libraries as part of my build system, and I don't think that I can stop them from emitting warnings without stopping myself from emitting warnings. Oh. What just happened here? We got a segfault before even starting. Hold on, let's go into debug mode. Well, that's not ideal. And it comes from a mem copy. That sounds about right. Okay, wait, what's happening here? So this is the part of the code where it encodes metadata into binary. You wish C++ macros were as powerful as Rust macros? I wish Rust templates were as powerful as C++ templates. What have I done? Okay, so this is encoding the default value of something, and the error is coming from when we're encoding a string. And then, so what we're doing is we're writing a number, which is going to do its own thing. Then I get the new start. I resize the array to be the size of it plus the string's length. Then I mem copy into the start position as bytes, as a void pointer, stringval.data. Hold on, so that's a char array, and then I void pointer it, and then I U8 it. And then this is the size of the array. I'm not sure why that would break. It's saying... Huh. It actually says that it's on operation square. So is it breaking at this point? Oh, I get it. So start is out.size, which is out of bounds. Let's imagine we're encoding a 0-length string here, right? Then we're resizing and then we're trying to start off the frame, and then we're writing 0 values. Now, I don't think that this is an off by 1 error, but the problem is we just cannot reference this point if it's a 0-length string, and I'm assuming that's what's happening here. Because let's say it was a 1-length string, then we are increasing the size by 1, which means that start would be a valid index to the last value on the list, and then it would write 1 value. So I basically just need to go if strval.size is greater than 0, then we do this. And because I will definitely come in and remove this because I'm going to say, oh, well, why am I doing that? This is just a no-op otherwise. I'm going to write in here. Wait, what? Yeah, no, that makes sense. Must do this check as otherwise, as if its length 0 out start is an invalid reference. And it also explains why it wasn't breaking in production, because there wouldn't be that check for the invalid reference, so it would be an invalid destination, but we're also trying to copy 0 bytes, so I assume that just never gets to the point where it actually tries to do anything. So let's try this again. I hope we don't crash. Okay, game opened and then crashed. Thanks, good start. Oh, this is a weird one. This is a V8 error. And this is happening in the script environment, and it updates all the globals. It would be cool if the chat showed up in your sandbox when you ran it. Like, like if the chat messages just like popped up in the sky. That would be really cool. Maybe I should do that. I don't have like networking support yet for the API. I could either implement that, which I probably don't want to do just yet because that would be really complicated and should probably integrate with the server-side stuff, because currently my mentality is that, so like you can run script on the client and on the server, but I don't want to make it so that the client, or like mods should not be able to make network requests on a client computer, because you're supposed to be able to run untrusted mod code on your client, and I don't want you to be able to like DDoS a player, or not DDoS, dox a player by having like their computer phone home. So I'm probably only going to allow the server to do raw network requests, and I don't currently have the client-server separation set in stone. So I'm probably going to make it so that you have to basically send a message to the server being like, I want to load this resource, and then the server loads it. So in the meantime, if I wanted to make chat appear, I might just make it so that it like writes chat to a file, and then the game periodically reads that file, because that would work. Wasn't thinking on the sky, but maybe in the side. Yeah, that would be cool. A whitelist, I suppose, and then I could introduce a permission system, and I might do that later, but like I don't think that that's necessarily a thing that makes sense to invest time in just yet, because I suspect players will probably, like, the use cases will arise when people start trying to use the system. I see user bin in the console. Are you running Linux? What distro? Yes, I am running Linux. I am running Endeavour OS, which is an Arch Linux derivative. I'm using the GNOME desktop environment. Yeah, I've used Linux for like 10 years. I actually didn't think that it had been that long, and then so weird trivia, when I set up my second channel to put those, like, school projects on, that's actually a really old channel that I've had for years that I just kind of rebranded, because it was like my childhood channel that I didn't want to ever delete because it had like really embarrassing videos of me trying to be a Minecraft YouTuber when I was like 12. But like, you know, they were all already unlisted. I just had the channel still exist because I didn't want to lose that like archive. And so when I went in and I like fixed it up, I went through all the videos to make sure they were all properly unlisted or whatever, and I found a video where I was talking about Linux in like 2015 or something. And I was like, oh god, okay, I've been doing this for longer than I thought. I think I might have started using Linux before I properly knew how to code. Because I think I just did it because I was annoyed at Windows. But I also might be wrong by a year or two. I'd have to check it. Alright, so the timer. What's wrong with the timer? The timer is trying to update. And it's trying to... Okay, so it's got the callback, it's got the arguments. But then there's this args property, which is a vector of values, and we're reserving it. And then we're emplacing all of the args from the arguments list, and then we're passing them into this. Why am I doing it like that? I guess that is how it expects me to do that. And I suspect this is probably the exact same issue. I'm passing in arg0, and that might not even exist, right? Because I'm... Yeah, so let's go args.length, or args.size, if so, and arg0, otherwise null pointer. That should be fine, because if it is 0 length, then arguments.size will be 0. This actually bugs me. This should be args. Yeah, that should do it. I had some breaking experience with Arch today, and I was thinking about some stable Arch derivative, maybe Manjaro. I think Linux, like, tooling compatibility is unfortunately in a really bad place, like, overall, even, like, if you try to use a stable distro. Like, I used Ubuntu for a long time, and I found it really frustrating that, like, tooling would just get deprecated by the time that you're ever, like, using it, and you couldn't upgrade it without doing an entire system upgrade, right? And then, like, Arch definitely has these fucking annoying breaking changes every now and then. But I did also use Manjaro for a while, and I honestly can't recommend it, because they mirror a lot of the Arch repos, but not the Arch user repository. And specifically when you're doing development stuff, that can get really infuriating. Like, I like using Valgrind for testing for, like, memory corruptions and stuff, and it requires that you have the same headers for, like, the Linux OS as you do the actual compiled code. And one of those was in Manjaro's mirrors, and one of them wasn't, and they would regularly become out of sync and just break everything. Ubuntu. I don't know which one's right. Okay, we got a crash. Is this the same spot? It is the same... No, it's not the same. Because I've got code duplication. Ugh, look at me go. Why did I do this 3 times in a row? What is actually different between these? Okay, they are slightly different. I don't like that I've done it like that, but screw it. Let's just do it 3 times. Ubuntu. Oh wait, Ubuntu? Ubuntu. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say Ubuntu. That said, I always call NVIDIA NVIDIA, and everyone hates me for that. Everyone goes, that's not its name, and I'm like, I don't care. It's Ubuntu? Oh, Ubuntu? I call it fish. Hey, wait, we didn't break. Although, I'm getting, like, fucking 0 FPS. Wow. What the hell is happening? I have no idea why debug mode would be, like, melting this hard. Hold on, let me kill it with fire. You're eating all my frames. Stop doing that. Okay, that was an assertion. Let's rerun this in debug mode real quick. So, Zephyr. Okay. Frame time is escalating. I see how it is. Let's close the game. Close the game, please. I need to see what happens when it crashes. You can't prove it isn't pronounced fish. No. This is terrible. I'm gonna let it sit for a sec, and... oh, there we go. Hold on. RLE encode. RLE encode crashed? Okay, that is definitely weird. That is a bug that should not be happening. And it's another one of those out-of-bounds detections. So... wait. Is this the same bug? No, this is just in debug mode, that's why it's slow, but... what am I looking at here? What is this logic? So RLE encode takes an array, an output array, and an input array. And then it takes the first node and takes the start, and then while the start is less than the size, then it sets the end to start plus 1. So that's saying the end is 1 after the start. And then while end is less than in.size and in end is equal to the same node, we increment end. So we end up with an end that is at the moment where the block changes. Then we push back the end minus the start. Then we push back the node. Then we set start to end. And then we set in to start. And that can be a bug, because this can increment this to the end of the array. So I guess technically I should do this to prevent it from doing that? But no, because that would cut off a value at the end. What I actually need to do is just do this. I need to go if start is greater or equal to in.size. Or I could just, like, do this. Because this check is here, right? This is just set to in 0 at the beginning and start is 0. Let's just do that. We'll just default initialize that. And then that should fix it. So I guess time to run it in debug mode and wait for like a minute and a half to see if it crashes there again. Have you ever considered using the optimizer in debug mode? What do you mean? What optimizer? I'm showing my ignorance here. Okay, I'm waiting until at least one chunk exists. I assume that means that it exists. Kill it. Whoa! Okay, that was a heap error. What even happened? In the texture atlas? In VK array allocator. When the scene was deleted. Oh, I think I get it. You can use O3 in debug mode. Interesting. I should probably do that. But I can just use rel with debug info. Okay, this bug is gonna be slightly more annoying to fix. I think what's happening here is, so basically what happened is it registered that it was closing before the window was destroyed. Or I guess, sorry, the scene was destroyed before all the resources were destroyed, which is weird. I don't know how that happened. But then the destructor played out for the texture, and the actual texture atlas no longer existed, which is interesting. I'm gonna try this in rel with debug info real quick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure rel with debug info is just debug info plus, like, optimizations. Okay, if I just, like, wait for this to finish generating. Play with the FOV for no reason. How do I do that? Yeah. Whee! Whoa. I think I just traveled outside the universe. That's incredible. What a world. I'm glad I got the frustum culling working properly again. New effect discovered. We go outside the timeline. Okay, let's close the game. That's an error. And it didn't get caught by the debugger again, so... okay. What's happening? This is an array manager ad. Oh, wait. That's, I believe, just saying where it occurred. Heap buffer overflow and remove. Yeah, I'm not gonna handle that right now, because that's honestly just not a thing that I think needs to be fixed in place. I think what actually needs to happen is the game needs to close the scene while keeping the allocator around, then deallocate all the textures, and then close the textures. So this should never happen, basically. I guess I could go find out where the game actually stops when you tell it to close. I assume that's in Window? Window has nothing in it. That's because it's a virtual class. There was like this really annoying period where I was trying to keep Vulkan and OpenGL working at the same time, and then I realized that was a very bad idea. You can set that field of view for teleporters. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Okay, so the poll event here, when we eventually go down to quit, we emit a close request to the window. I believe that the client game is what owns the window? No, the client? The client owns the window. So presumably somewhere in here we bind to close request, yep, which sets the property alive to false. That ends this update step, which just ends this function. Where is this actually called? Where is client created? Probably in here. This would probably be it. No, wait, that's a script module, so never mind, I'm wrong. Okay. Start game. That's probably it. Yep, okay. Match mode, if client, then spawn the client, otherwise spawn the server, and then we literally just return from there. So I think the issue is that the garbage collector is currently free to just delete these in whatever order it wants, which means that the textures is being deleted before the scene. It's time stream from Cobalt Core? Yeah. So I think what we do is in the destructor for client... Oh, I already have one. Okay, render, wait until idle. Scene reset, textures reset, render reset, input reset, window reset. That should be in the right order. Hold on. Let's log waiting until renderer idle. Then we're gonna go resetting scene. Clearing textures. Deallocating renderer. Terminating input. Terminating window. I know that this it sounds like I just chose random verbs or adjectives. I think that they make sense in my head. I don't know why I chose that set of them, but it just made sense to me. Okay, so now we should be able to see the exact moment in this cleanup function where it breaks. There's a lot of commented code in here. You can tell, like, when I don't go to a place regularly, if there's just, like, commented code that's just sitting here. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna let this be killed as soon as we get a chunk. Okay, we have chunks. Killing it now. Okay, we got a big stack trace. Let's read what happened. Waiting until render idle. Resetting scene. Interesting. So, resetting the scene should basically kill the game world, right? And then killing the game world... Like, I think the connection scene creates the game, the client game, yeah. And then it passes it to the world. And the world scene owns the client game. So when the world gets destroyed, it just runs its default destructor, which will clear... the game first. I think that might be the problem. Maybe? Maybe not, actually, because the client game... What does the client game own? It owns the mesh atlas, and it has a reference to the client. And destroyed game gets printed when it gets closed, which is interesting because it never runs, which means we're not actually getting to the point where the client game is getting destroyed. That's my read on the situation. Oh, thanks for the hydrate, Zith. So, when we get to world, and then its destructor gets called, let's override this and just log destroying world. We should at least see this, because the destructor is going to happen before any implicit destruction. So, we should be able to see it say destroying world before it does all this shit. Yep, I saw it. Resetting scene, destroying world. And then, suddenly, the texture atlas flips out. Texture atlas, VK array, allocator, array manager, remove texture. From this line, yeah, that makes sense. In add, that's just because it called it in the lambda. Wow, it really knows the entire stack trace for what spawned this in. Interesting. And this happened in the world destructor. Hold on. I was getting somewhere and then I accidentally scrolled the page. So the world destructor gets called, and then the vector containing texture atlas textures gets destroyed. And then okay, so it looks like the texture atlas texture is being destroyed when we kill some array in the world. Hey Jason, how you doing? Long time no see. So, this is so weird, and I think my impulse is that I shouldn't be destroying game first, because game is going to... Wait, no, but it doesn't go in order, does it? Hold on. C++ default destructor order. Order of number constructors and destructors. Okay, it's initialized in this order and destroyed in reverse order. So that means I was actually looking at one of these wrong. If I have the scene at the bottom, it gets destroyed first before everything else. Which, again, is good. That's good. I was gonna vacuum, but I see you're requiring silence. It probably won't run for too much longer. He's my roommate, if you're confused by that. But I override the destructor in the client to destroy it in the proper order, so that's irrelevant. Yeah, because that's gonna happen here. So I guess let's go back to the world. So destroying world happens, and then I assume it's triggering... So it's going in default order. I'm assuming this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. And I'm guessing the first thing that actually... Well, it has to break before it gets to game. Because game would actually print out its destructor, right? So maybe it's some of these? Oh, there's this here, this vector of texture atlases. Or texture refs. But I doubt it's that. Okay, what if I... What if I do this? Let's go U pointer, or let's just go let v is equal to std make unique, or wait, let's just go U pointer int v is just going to be std unique pointer, and we'll just set it to an integer, and we're just gonna set it to 1, and then give it a destructor that just goes log destroyed marker. So all I'm doing right here is I'm just creating a thing. Why didn't that work? Oh, new int. Why didn't that work? What did I do? Requires one argument but two are provided. I've messed up. I don't remember the syntax for creating a unique pointer with a destructor. That should be it. Oh, because this needs int star in its signature, right? Is that it? To deleter type for second argument. Why not? Why not? What is deleter type? Default delete. That should be fine, right? Am I blind? Single argument, boop, 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 boop. Requirement is L value reference was not satisfied with that. I wish I understood what that meant. Because this should just be able to be defined, right? Do I just need to, like... Hold on. Is it just because I'm defining it in the header? Like, if I just go into world.cpp and I go... what did I call it? I'm just gonna call it marker. I'm gonna go marker is equal to... And it doesn't like that. What's wrong with it? This is exactly how I've done deleters before. Is it because it's an integer? Fine, I'll just do it the simple way. Let's just go into world, and I'm gonna go marker, marker, and I'm gonna go up here, and I'm gonna go class marker, marker, tilde marker, log, killed marker. Or I'm just gonna go reached marker. Cool. Now be nice to me and let me compile. Why? Because it's private. Fine. I accept that. Oh, thank you for the raid. How's everyone doing? I'm currently trying to do something that should really be simple, but I'm not using my brain correctly. But I think I finally got it. Wow, computers. Let's try that again. Okay, project built. Project built. Cool. Hey there, Quacku! How you doing? I'm trying to debug why my game segfaults when I close it. And I have just made a stupid little marker class here that has a destructor that logs when it gets deleted, so I can figure out how far up this tree of members it gets before it breaks. Did I see the marker thing? Yes, I did reach the marker. Okay. Cool. Let's move this above this vector of persistent textures, because I kind of think that's the problem. Doing great, been working on a River Raid clone. What is River Raid? Oh, cool. I've never seen this before. It's an Atari game? Okay, and then... kill. Please tell me... Yeah, it didn't reach the marker. Oh, I understand now. Okay, 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 okay. So... the problem is these texture atlas refs here. These, when this gets destroyed, it breaks it, okay? So these are persistent textures. They are just textures, right? They're stored in this vector so that they continue to exist forever. Because, you know, all of my textures are reference counted, so if there stops being any references to a texture, it gets deleted. So if I want a texture to exist for the lifetime of the game, I just put it into this list so there's always at least one reference to it, basically. Voxel stuff sounds interesting and complicated. I agree, I think it's both. So, here's the issue. So, may I ask, what's the difference between an array and a vector? It's basically just their memory storage. So, in C++, you can't have dynamically sized things on the stack. It's just not how the stack works. It wants to know at compile time how big it's going to be. So when you create an array, arrays exist entirely on the stack, and so you have to give them a size at compile time. And that means that like they can't grow or shrink. They will always have whatever length that you give them. But if you create a vector, it's basically just creating an array but on the heap, which means that it can be as big as it wants. It's interesting I'm not getting that unlinking texture line when it crashes either, which means that it's not getting to the unlink function. Okay. Huh. Yeah, but yeah, basically vectors allow you to have a dynamic length list, whereas arrays are static. Arrays are a bit more efficient because generally having something on the stack is better than having it on the heap because it keeps it closer to the memory that you're actively interacting with. But, you know, if you don't need all of the space in the array, then you're going to end up wasting memory to have it be on the stack, so. Okay, if I kill this now. Now that we know what's happening at that persistent textures thing, let's take another look at the stack trace. So we're getting to destroying world, and then we're not quite getting to marker because it's happening. It's crashing right here. And what we're seeing is that we have a overflow, which probably means that this actual value it's trying to call it on is gone. And that's happening on the array manager. So it's not happening on like the texture atlas, it's happening all the way down into the array manager, which is interesting because I don't even know how the array managers can get freed up. Like, if we go to the array manager, I have a vector of managers. Do they ever get cleared? No. They never get deleted by this code, which means the only way that they would get deleted is if texture atlas was deleted. So I suspect if I wrote a destructor in here, if I go to texture atlas, wait, that's a namespace, hold on. Well, VK array allocator. Let's go tilde VK array allocator law or warn killed array allocator. And we run it now. We should end up seeing that the array allocator got killed before this. And probably before destroying world. Because otherwise I can't imagine why it would be breaking. We're gonna try and find out. Except things are breaking. Why are things breaking? Oh, it's because it's private. Damn it. Where are my public methods in here? Here. Cool. The fact that destructors can be private is very strange. Because, like, you can technically make it illegal to destroy an object if you do that. C++ always scared you. It's a weird language. It's super weird. Okay, looking at this again. Huh. Well, that's not right. We didn't get the warning. So if I understand this correctly, oh, I think I get it. Oh, damn it. Okay, I understand what happened, I think. Wait. That doesn't make sense, though. So, I'm so happy right now I just figured out the exam that I was in analysis paralysis about isn't tomorrow, but on Tuesday. I mean, that's great, but you get to push your anxiety back another day. Is that really nice? I always like when I could get them out of the way because I know I'm never going to actually feel good until it's over with. Okay, so I think what's happening here is... So wait, so this is being called by killing the client, resetting the scene manager, but that happens... here before the textures are reset. So we're killing the scene manager, then that calls a default delete on scene, which calls the world destructor, which just basically does regular world stuff, or just it logs. And then that goes to here, and then kills the vector of textures, which then kills a texture, which then kills a texture, kills itself, kills itself, kills itself. The shared pointer realizes it's empty, and then it calls this function right here, which is responsible for actually cleaning everything up. This function takes array here, which is a pointer to a texture array, but it also takes itself by value. But that's okay, because the value is a pointer. But that's not okay, because the vector could change its memory location. I'm guessing that's what's happening. I'm guessing, so basically, we're storing this and then calling this remove, right? Which is causing us to access this member, right? And even though, and then we call this allocator in here, which means we actually need to access the thing. And I bet, yeah, it's this line. Okay, it's this line. So the problem is that we're trying to access a member of the allocator, and the allocator pointer is no longer valid. And that is because, say it with me, this is a vector of array managers, not array manager pointers. So when the vector has to resize, any references we had to the array manager get invalidated because it allocates new fucking memory. Okay, so let's make it unique pointers. And then if we emplace back, so when we add, we emplace back into managers a, oh, this is creating it. Okay, std make unique. Then we're gonna go array allocator. And it didn't like that. Oh no, pointer magic. Concepts my Java brain can understand. Your Java Brian. Wait, this is just, this isn't VK array allocate, it's array manager. Okay. So that creates it. Then we do that. Get out of here, unused include. Okay. Now, this is our, so this reference should be stable. It should be stable. So if it compiles, if I haven't forgotten anything, then it should break. Or I mean, it shouldn't break. It shouldn't break. Okay. So it got further. Destroying worlds, unlinking a bunch of textures, good for it. It reached the marker, it destroyed the game. Now I've got a new issue, a completely different issue. Gotta go, not because of the memory talk, but because it's getting late. Good luck with the project. Thank you! And thanks for the raid again. I really appreciate it. Should I learn C++ or C# for game dev? Depends. Do you want to work in an existing engine, or do you want to build your own? Because most existing engines, like I think Unity and Unreal, no, Unity and Godot support C#. Unreal does C++ stuff. If you want to make your own engine, definitely C++. Pointers are simpler than you think. They're essentially just integer indices. Not indices to integers, but indices that are integers. That is correct, yeah. Okay, I need to kill all of this logging. It's interesting that it didn't delete all of the textures, did it? Like, there are still a bunch of textures hanging around. Which, I guess... Oh, you know what? That's because destroyed game is happening. So if we go back to the world, and we move this marker up to where the game is, I don't think we're gonna see it. So if we run this again, I don't think we're gonna see the marker because it's gonna be crashing in the middle of killing the Vulkan buffers that are in the game. Somehow the bit of embedded assembly I have written is less scary to me. Huh. Interesting. I mean, pointers are just memory addresses, right? Like, I'm sure you'd be familiar with that if you did embedded assembly, right? Oh, the negative 1337. I just needed it to know that I'm not standing where this is. I know it's very dumb. Okay. No marker? Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see a marker. So it crashed inside of here now. Which is interesting. I just want to confirm again. Yeah, that I didn't kill the renderer until after killing the scene, which kills the game. So... destroyed game is being said, but that's not actually correct. It's actually starting to destroy the game, because the game... like, this destructor is going to happen before it destroys anything inside of it. Which means it'll destroy the mesh atlas, it won't destroy the client, because the client is a reference. And then it will destroy anything in the superclass, which is the time, which has no destructor, it's a float. The script environment, which is probably going to destroy everything. The node data atlas, the decoration atlas, all of these other atlases that have everything in them. For the most part, I'd expect that to go without a hitch. The only thing I'd be worried about is the mesh atlas here, and that's because it has actual references to Vulkan memory. That's why it's in the client game as opposed to the game itself, because the server game doesn't want Vulkan stuff. And I think, yeah, I do see mesh buffer item in here. Let me catch up with chat. Pointers are virtual memory addresses. IRC, it's the operating system that handles the physical address of the pointer. This is true, yeah, but for, like, all intents and purposes, you can consider them physical addresses unless you are actually, like, interchangeably using assembly. C++ and rendering, that's fair. It is very complicated. Server stuff and client stuff super interesting. I don't know if I'm necessarily doing it right, I'll be honest, but my approach with that is to try and generalize as much code as I can to work on both sides, and then overwrite logic for the client and the server, or add additional pieces to make each side do its job. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at this actual stack trace now that I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable reading these. Sanitize address is very, very nice, I'll be honest. Okay, so many words. So it crashed when doing an equality check on an iterator. Where? Internal. In mesh buffer remove. Okay, so it's this function. And then it does some sort of thing with a deck? Do I have a deck in here? I suppose I do. Okay. Items to flush. Interesting. So let's take a look again at what it's saying to do. So it's So a mesh is getting killed because I assume that it's, you know, I assume it's a Skybox, actually. Because that's the only entity with a mesh right now. So the Skybox is getting destroyed, which causes its underlying mesh to be destroyed, which triggers... Why is this not a destructor? Huh. I have a function to make it a thing with a destructor that's commented out. I wonder why. Oof. I'm gonna... VK mesh buffer item. And then I want to go if is created, because I think this destroy, yeah, it says buffer to null pointer. So I'm gonna actually write a destructor here really quick. VK mesh buffer item, and then it's gonna go if this dot is created error or warn destroyed a mesh buffer item without destroying its underlying Vulkan memory. Why is this sad at me? Oh, yeah, of course, syntax. Cool. Okay, so let's try and kill this. And we're gonna see, we should see if this happens. This is actually me kind of chasing a different issue right now. I shouldn't get overly distracted, but I am curious to see if this happens. That's happening a lot. Oh, great. Is it happening like a lot? Oh, it sure is. Wow. Whoa. Wait, so then my understanding of the situation is that this should be like constantly increasing in memory. But it doesn't look like it is. I mean, it's taking its sweet time to actually generate more meshes. Huh. So something is happening. It is definitely garbage collecting. Like, you can see that it is clearing itself, but it's constantly thinking that it's not. Like, because sometimes the memory goes up by a megabyte and then goes back down. So, also, I will say, what the shit? How is that? Whoa. Ah. I fucked up. Hold on. TP000. Wait. The game is not happy right now. I'm flying in the air. The memory just isn't going up at all, which is weird. I mean, like, I suppose I did confirm that, like, on average, a mesh is, like, 21 kilobytes. But you would think that as I rendered more terrain, the amount of memory that it's using would increase, right? It is also constantly destroying buffers, apparently. Oh! Oh, I think I get it. This is a passed by value object, isn't it? well, that's passed by reference. I'm assuming it's passed by value somewhere. I guess I could check the copy constructor. If I just go, vk mesh buffer item, const vk mesh buffer item, and O equals delete. If this breaks everything, then we know that it's being copied. Oh, well, it did. Entity mesh. So the entity meshes can be duplicated. Is that the only place? Oh, no, it definitely happens a lot. Cool. Okay, so then this doesn't actually mean anything necessarily, which is unfortunate. I was hoping that that meant a thing, and that could explain something, but... Huh. Interesting. To be honest, everyone, I kind of don't think I can focus on this any longer today. It's been about 3 hours, and I'm also very hungry. I think I want to go get some lunch. I am happy that we made progress with, like, getting it to not crash as early when the game's closing. And I'm confident that we can find the rest of it. It's just... It has been crashing on close for, like, 2 years, and I've never bothered to dig into it. And as I've been adding more complexity, I think I've just been adding more and more conditions where it crashes on close. So as I'm, like, digging through, like, all of these bugs and fixing one after another, I'm still encountering, like, loads more that never would show up because it was crashing before I got there. So I think it's a bit of a journey, to be honest. But regardless, I'm very happy with what we got done today. Like, getting the Skylight factor working again, as well as getting the like, texture transitioning working properly is really cool. I'm glad that textures finally deallocate themselves after being created. It was kind of really cursed that it wasn't. So that being done is cool. And I'm glad that, like, the lights are one step closer to working properly as well. I still need to make the destruction of them work properly. Like, if I break this, it doesn't really go away. It's kind of just, like, still there, which is not great. But yeah. Thanks. Yeah, so I guess that's probably it for the coding I'm gonna do today. I'll end up going back to this next week. I'll see if I can check out some of the stack traces before next week, but no promises, because I do need to get that next video out, and it's coming along. I guess I can do a little, another little tease real quick. Let me, well, I'm gonna do this so I don't accidentally show too much of the script. One sec. Where is it? It's this one. Yeah, okay. Check this out. I've got a whole shot list for everything in the thing. And those are just all the animations I need to make. The script is done. So once I make all the shots, then I can animate the video together, which is exciting. So, yeah. I guess new video soon, hopefully. Hold me to it. That's Obsidian. It's source open note editor. It's not actually properly open source, which is unfortunate, but it's very customizable. And so I use it for a lot of stuff. It has, the reason I use it for scripting is because it has, like, all of these are references to my actual document, my script, and they live update, which is really nice. And I haven't seen another program that does that, so I use it. That's the Kanban. That's the Obsidian Kanban extension. I wish it were FOSS 2. But yeah, okay, well, I think without any further rambling, my stomach is telling me it's time to go, so I'll see you all next week. If you're new here and you'd like to catch the streams when they happen, my Discord's in the bottom right, and I always announce beforehand, but it's also Sundays at noon, so, you know, noon PST, to be clear. But yeah, alright, cool. Well, thank you all for showing up. See you all next time. Bye, everyone!